Time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Here is Panthers head coach Matt Rule addressing the decision to not trade for Deshaun Watson.
For me right now, I'm focused on this week and trying to beat Atlanta and, feel really good about Sam. Obviously, it wasn't a great game this past game. I think, at the end of the day, when Sam goes back and watches himself, or our whole team goes back and watches himself against the New Orleans Saints, we see, exactly what he is and was and can be, and we just got to get him back to that spot. So, obviously, as you know, I can't comment on any other player, but I'm focused on Sam and trying to get him back to the level he was playing at, and I think that has to be everyone's focus on the O-line, receiver, everyone.
Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. Key, why are the Panthers not looking to trade for Deshaun Watson?
But see, I didn't hear where he said he wasn't looking. He can't comment on other players. And he said his concentration is focused on this week. He's not focused in on Deshaun Watson publicly. So it's hard for me to understand where did we come up with this from a public perspective that they will not trade for Deshaun Watson.
That's interesting. In other words, where did
it come from?
He's not allowed to comment on it, but so we in the media ask the question. He doesn't comment on it. We take the no comment as a no,
yes.
And then we have now created a story the next day.
That's hard for me to process because I never heard Deshaun's name. I never heard that we're not looking at another quarterback. I never heard any of that. All I heard was my focus is on trying to get Sam better this week. The trade deadline is next week. I believe November 2nd, to be correct. We have a game on Sunday. So I don't know. I mean, that's where my mind is at. Now, are you asking me, are they going to trade for him? I don't know.
No, I was asking about the way we have framed this in the media is that they said, no, we are not doing that. And you're saying because they're not allowed to comment
so
on it.
So how can we come to that conclusion?
Interesting, Jay.
You can't. I'm with you. There was a fascinating article.
I hate to be a lawyer.
But yeah. There's an interesting article in The Athletic about this where they polled a whole bunch of fans from the Carolina Panthers. And the majority of fans said that they felt like there was a change needed, but they didn't feel like Deshaun Watson was a change that they wanted. And I find that extremely fascinating from the fan perspective because you sit up here and we live in a world that you're innocent until proven guilty. But now with 20-plus accusations.
You can't ask people to turn their brains off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And but that doesn't mean that they're not going to make a trade. I agree with what Key's saying, but that does heavily influence what comes with a trade like that.
You're innocent, not in the court of public opinion, but legally you're innocent. Until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But it is also reasonable for reasonable people to start to draw some conclusions or at least lean in a certain direction if they hear similar things are being said by 22 separate women. And that's going to affect the way people think inevitably.
Well, it's not great, right? I mean, obviously there's decisions that's got to be made, and it's not great to bring somebody into your building that have all this going on swirling around them. There's no question about it. But again, I didn't hear where Matt Rule said that they are not pursuing another quarterback. I don't even want to say a name, just another quarterback.
I do want to bring up the point though that when David Tepper bought the team, right, from Jerry Richardson, who had scandal in the organization from misconduct, and he said he wanted to create a healthy environment for a team. You start thinking about things that your owner has said before, and then if you see this contradicting behavior, it doesn't.
I like what Tepper's done so far. I like the fact that he looked at what he had and he said, I got a good coach, I got a good quarterback. I don't think it's going to get me there. He had the guts to say, I'm going to tear it all down and try to be better.
Agreed.
Now, can we put back up on ESPN2 right now? Can we put the stat where you see Sam Darnold with McCaffrey, Sam Darnold without McCaffrey? Look at the difference here. Wow. 3-0 with him, 0-4 without him. He's completing almost 70%, 68% of his passes with him, under 60, 56% without him. 8.3 yards per attempt with McCaffrey, 5.6 without him, and his QBR is 65 with him, which is good, 27 without him, which is you don't have a job starting in the NFL.
That's the reality of having a Christian McCaffrey. I mean, a lot of quarterbacks' numbers would go up with Christian McCaffrey in the lineup. I mean, that's the reality of it.
But he turns him from a good quarterback to a bad quarterback
Yeah,
without
but think
him.
about what happened to Teddy Bridgewater last year. Teddy Bridgewater was playing without Christian McCaffrey for a very long time and still was grinding away, had him close, but if he would have had that guy on the field for the 16 weeks, who knows what the Panthers would have been throughout the season.
But there are, like we talk, I've talked and we've talked in the past about, call it baskets or buckets of quarterbacks, right? Bridgewater and Darnold, you may disagree in terms of talent, but we've talked about Case Keenum and Baker, and I said Kirk Cousins and this one and that one. They're all in the same bucket, meaning none of these dudes are Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so those kind of quarterbacks are more reliant on having extraordinary weapons with them, right? Christian McCaffrey, like if you took him away, if you gave him to Aaron Rodgers, Rodgers would kill a game. Without McCaffrey, Rodgers is still going to kill it. But it seems to me that Darnold is highly reliant on that.
Yeah, but Rodgers has Aaron Jones, who is a very, very good football player. But if he didn't have Aaron Jones, he still has great receivers on the perimeter, a decent tight end.
Yeah, no one could do it by himself.
And he's been doing it for a very, very long time. Christian McCaffrey is important to the success of Sam Darnold. The numbers said it right there. You just read it, Max, and it is what it is. That now maybe Christian McCaffrey comes back at some point in time, Sam turns it around, and if not, then maybe they look to do something different.
That's like Saquon Barkley being very important to Daniel Jones. I mean,
Jared Goff without Todd Gurley went from, is he an MV? No, he's not. Right? Like with Todd Gurley, he looked totally different.
brings a different option.
But that's not. But there's nothing. But I guess there's nothing wrong with that because everybody always has somebody that they rely on because again they can't do it by themselves. You know, you think about the great Tom Brady. Tom Brady didn't do much at the end, other than the Super Bowl 3 years ago, but much at the end in New England.
Bounced in the first round of the playoffs
because he didn't have anything.
But guys like that will get to the play. They'll still be good.
If I would have dropped Christian McCaffrey on the New England team 2 years ago,
ooh, yeah,
they'll tell it what would have happened.
Okay, so
but you're just saying that you're saying there are levels to it because still with Aaron Rodgers, like we talked about, even with Lazard and Devontae Adams out, like the line went from 3.5 to 6, but it's still holding at less than a touchdown.
And McCaffrey, Todd Gurley back then, we're talking about some quarterbacks may need a special kind of weapon, right? Do you think, Jay, Darnold turns this around without McCaffrey this year?
I think he is a marginal quarterback. I don't know. I think without his weapons, I don't think we'll see his full potential.
He just called him a marginal quarterback. Key, I got to
say, wait. Let me recalibrate that to me.
All right.
Because marginal is still an exceptional quarterback because obviously he's in the NFL.
As a starter, you mean? As a starting NFL quarterback.
Like he's in that mid-tier of quarterbacks for me in the NFL, which I guess would translate to not phenomenal like Patrick Mahomes, but like in that mid-pack.
Mm-hmm.
Fair?
He is a starting quarterback with the circumstances and the situation perfect.
Right.
That's what he is.
Right.
He's a starting
A lot of guys fit into that category.
There's a lot of people that can fit into that category.
It's kind of like, and he's the basketball terminology for this, kind of like a little bit like Kyle Lowry, right? Kyle Lowry without weapons around him, you're like, all right, Kyle Lowry, you're still good. But Kyle Lowry with weapons around him?
I think Kyle Lowry is a better point guard than
Sam Darnold as a
quarterback.
Fair.
I think he's a better point.
That's fair.
We could think of other analogies.
Yeah, I was trying to give a basketball one. Yeah. Didn't really work.
Still, the numbers from McCaffrey are
it's okay, man.
I'm just trying to squeeze some basketball in here.
Pat just said Reggie Jackson.
It's okay to weave it in. It's good.
I'm trying to.
Coming up on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max, why 2 injuries to quarterbacks could have very different kinds of impacts, I guess you'd say, on their teams this week. We'll tell you about that after Jay has this from Vivid Seats.
That is correct.
There's my snare, Yates. Thank you. Football season's back.